Imagine for a second that you are looking at a satellite image of a country's economy.
Uh-huh.
On one side, you have these glittering high-tech cities, Bangalore, Gurgaon, Hyderabad. The money being made there is it's astronomical.
Right. We're talking about air-conditioned offices, billion-dollar unicorns, stock market rallies. It looks like a superpower.
It does. It looks like the future.
Mm-hmm.
But then you zoom in, you look at where the actual people are, and you realize that the vast majority of them, they aren't in those glass towers.
Mm.
They are out in the fields under the sun doing the same back-breaking labor their grandparents did. So here's the question. How does an economy grow 10 times in value, literally exploding in wealth, but barely move the needle on where its people actually work?
It sounds like a riddle, doesn't it? Or maybe a glitch in the simulation.
Exactly.
But it's not a glitch. It is the defining paradox of modern India. We have a GDP that tells the story of a developed nation, and we have employment data that looks like a developing agrarian society.
And that is what we are unpacking today. We are going to find out why the money is in one place, and the people, well, they're in another.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is a special session tailored specifically for the Simplified UPSC by PPP series.
Today, our mission is to decode the absolute bedrock of the Indian economy. We are opening up the NCERT Class 10 economics textbook, and we're looking at Chapter 2, Sectors of the Indian Economy.
Now, I know what some of you are probably thinking. I can practically hear the collective sigh through the headphones.
Class 10.
Class 10, seriously. I'm prepping for the civil services. I'm reading these thick, heavy books on macroeconomics. So why on earth are we going back to high school?
Because you cannot build a skyscraper on a swamp. It's that simple. This chapter is the foundation. It is the skeleton key that unlocks General Studies Paper 3.
Okay.
If you don't master this, I'm telling you, the advanced stuff just won't make sense. And as we'll see today, the concepts here, they actually spill over into geography and society in Paper 1 as well.
That's a bold claim.
I stand by it. I really do. If you don't understand the structural transformation, or more importantly, the lack of it, which is described in this text, you simply cannot write a coherent mains answer on unemployment or industrial growth or social justice. It's impossible.
Fair enough. I'm sold. Before we dive into this fascinating mess of sectors and statistics and structural flaws, I have a humble request. If this content helps your prep, if it saves you time, please just take a second and hit that subscribe button.
And if you are capable, please consider supporting Simplified UPSC by PPP on Patreon. It allows us to keep bringing this super useful content to you, free from all the noise. We really want to keep this high quality and accessible.
And a massive, massive shout out to all our current supporters. You guys are the real MVPs. You make this possible. And seriously, don't forget to like this video and share your valuable comments below. It really does help the algorithm find other learners just like you.
Also, a crucial resource alert before we begin, free notes with practice previous year questions, or PYQs as we call them, are available right now on the public Telegram channel. You don't want to miss those.
Correct. And for those who want to supercharge their prep, I'm talking about getting access to all the videos of this series at once, plus the premium notes.
Which are really detailed.
Oh yeah, they include detailed breakdowns, extra PYQs, and model mains answers organized perfectly. To get all that, just DM us on the public Telegram channel to join the private library.
Okay, that's the housekeeping. Let's get to work.
So, sectors of the Indian economy. We look around us, and people are doing a million different things. Someone's farming, someone's coding, someone's making bricks, someone is flying a plane. It looks like chaos.
Yeah.
How do we even begin to classify all this?
Well, economists, they like to bring order to chaos.
Yeah.
We can't analyze a million things. It's just not possible. We need buckets. We need categories. And the first and most fundamental way we classify economic activity is by the nature of activity. We essentially ask, what are you actually doing to create value?
Okay.
And this leads us to the classic threefold classification: primary, secondary, and tertiary.
Let's start at the bottom. The primary sector.
This is the base. The definition is simple, but the nuance is really important. It covers activities where we produce a good by exploiting natural resources.
Exploiting makes it sound so aggressive.
It's accurate, though. Think about it. When you cultivate cotton, you aren't manufacturing the cotton in a lab.
No.
You are depending on rainfall, sunshine, soil nutrients. The plant grows naturally, you just facilitate it. You are, in effect, exploiting the biological process of that plant to get a product.
So agriculture is the obvious one, the big one.
Yes, which is why it's often called the agriculture and related sector. But this is exactly where students trip up. It's not just farming. Dairy, for example, is a biological process of animals. Nature provides the milk. Forestry is harvesting natural timber. Fishing is catching what nature produced in the water.
What about mining? That one always feels industrial to me. You know, big machines drilling into the earth, dust everywhere.
That's a crucial distinction to make. Minerals and ores are natural products. You didn't make the iron ore, the earth did, over millions of years.
Right.
You are just extracting it. So even though it uses heavy machinery, mining is a primary activity. You are taking what nature made.
Okay, so we take these natural resources, the cotton, the iron ore, the timber, and then what? We move to the secondary sector.
Exactly. The secondary sector, or you can call it the industrial sector, covers activities where natural products are changed into other forms through ways of manufacturing.
This is where we start actually making stuff.
Right. It's all about value addition through processing.
Right.
You take that cotton fiber from the primary sector, which is just a fluffy ball, and you spin it into yarn, and then you weave cloth. That cloth is a secondary product. You take sugar cane from the field and turn it into sugar, or gur. You take earth dirt, essentially, and you bake it into bricks to build houses.
And this doesn't have to be some giant factory with smoke billowing out, right?
Yeah.
I think we often visualize industry as these massive, 19th century plants.
No, and that's a key nuance the insert points out. This manufacturing can happen in a massive Tata steel plant, sure, but it can also happen in a small workshop.
Or home.
Or even at home. If you're weaving baskets at home or making pickles in your kitchen to sell, you are in the secondary sector. It's the act of transformation that matters, not the size of the building.
Got it. Then we have the third one, which, well, it feels like the one that's taken over the world, the tertiary sector.
The service sector. These are activities that do not produce a good. You can't hold a tertiary in your hand. You can't put it in a box.
Right.
Instead, these activities aid and support the production process.
Give us the classic examples.
Okay, so think about the logistics chain. The farmer produces wheat. That's primary. The mill grinds it into flour. That's secondary.
Yeah.
But how does the wheat get from the field to the mill? It needs trucks and trains. That's transport.
Okay.
Where is it kept before selling? It needs go-downs. That's storage. How does the miller pay the farmer? He needs banking.
Right.
How do they coordinate the deal? Communication phones, letters, the internet now.
So transport, storage, communication, banking, trade, these are the grease in the gears of the economy.
Precisely. Without them, the gears just grind to a halt. But the tertiary sector has expanded so much beyond just helping factories.
How so?
It now includes services that don't directly help production, but are absolutely essential for human life. Teachers, doctors, washermen, barbers, cobblers, lawyers.
And of course, the modern giant, information technology, call centers, software companies.
Exactly. When you write code, you aren't smelting iron or growing corn. You are providing a service.
It's interesting how connected they all are. I liked the cold drink or biscuit analogy you see in textbooks. You can't have the biscuit without the farmer, but the farmer can't sell the wheat without the truck.
It's a chain of interdependence. I mean, let's do a quick thought experiment. What happens if the truck drivers strike?
The vegetables rot in the field. The farmer loses money instantly.
Exactly. The primary sector suffers because the tertiary stopped. Now, let's reverse it. What if the farmers refuse to sell sugar cane to the sugar mills?
The mills have no raw material. They have to shut down. The secondary sector collapses.
They're inextricably linked. You cannot view them in isolation. One sector's ceiling is often another sector's floor.
This all seems pretty straightforward. Primary, secondary, tertiary. But since this is the deep dive for UPSC, I know you're going to tell me it's more complicated when it comes to the exam.
It is. This is where we bridge that gap between knowing the definition and clearing the exam. You need to be able to apply these simple definitions to complex scenarios. Let's look at the 2025 General Studies Paper 1.
Hot off the press.
Yes. Question 5 asked, and I'm quoting here, what are non-farm primary activities? How are these activities related to physiographic features in India? Discuss with suitable examples.
Ooh, that's tricky. If you just think primary equals farming, you're sunk immediately.
Immediately, you're out of the game. The question explicitly says non-farm. So you have to go back to that definition we just discussed, exploiting natural resources.
So you have to talk about mining, forestry.
Mining, forestry, fishing, and dairy. If you start writing about wheat and rice, you lose marks. It's as simple as that.
And the second part of the question, related to physiographic features, what are they getting at there?
They want you to map it. It's a geography question disguised as an economics one.
Mm,
Why is fishing big in Kerala or Andhra Pradesh? Well, because of the long coastline and the continental shelf.
makes sense.
Why is mining big in Jharkhand or Odisha? Because of the Chota-Nagpur Plateau and its geological history, the Gondwana rocks. The NCERT gives you the classification. The exam demands you apply it to the physical map of India.
It's testing if you can connect economy to geography. Any other connections like that?
Oh, definitely. Let's look at 2020 General Studies Paper I, Question 7. Account for the present location of iron and steel industries away from the source of raw material.
Wait, isn't steel a secondary sector thing? We're talking industry here.
It is. But this question connects all three sectors beautifully. Steel requires iron ore, which is primary.
Right.
Historically, factories, which are secondary, were built right next to the mines to save costs. I mean, you didn't want to haul heavy rocks halfway across the country.
But the question asks why they are now moving away.
And the answer lies largely in the tertiary sector. Improvements in transport and logistics, which is tertiary, mean you can move raw materials much more cheaply.
Ah,
Plus, the market has changed. You now need to be closer to where the buyers are, or near ports for export.
yeah.
So the location of the secondary sector is now dictated by the efficiency of the tertiary sector.
That is a brilliant way to connect the dots. It's not just about what the sectors are, but how they push and pull each other geographically.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know the sectors, but how do we measure them? How do we know who is winning in this economic race?
We use the ultimate yardstick of economic growth. Gross domestic product, GDP.
The magical acronym. Everyone says it, but I feel like very few people can actually define it. What is it, really?
The simplest definition is this. It is the value of all final goods and services produced within a country during a particular year.
I feel like you emphasize the word final for a reason.
I absolutely did. This is the final goods trap that students often fall into. We only count the final product. We do not count the intermediate goods.
Walk us through the biscuit example from the text. It's a classic for a reason, right?
Right. So imagine a farmer sells wheat to a flour mill for, say, 8 rupees per kilogram.
Oh, okay.
The mill grinds it and sells the flour to a biscuit company for 10 rupees per kilogram. The biscuit company then adds sugar, oil, and packaging and sells the packet to a consumer for 60 rupees. Let's say that's 15 rupees per packet.
So when we're calculating GDP, do we add the 8 rupees plus the 10 rupees plus the 60 rupees?
Absolutely not. That would be double counting, or in this case, triple counting. The value of the flour, the 10 rupees, already includes the value of the wheat. The 8 rupees is baked into it.
Mm-hmm.
And the value of the final biscuit, the 60 rupees, includes the flour, the wheat, the sugar, and the oil. Everything.
So we just take the 60 rupees. That's the number.
Correct. The 60 rupees is the value of the final good. That is what contributes to the GDP. If you counted the wheat separately, you'd be inflating the economy artificially. You'd be counting the same grain of wheat 3 times.
It seems like a simple concept, but measuring this for a country of 1.4 billion people must be an absolute nightmare.
It's a mammoth task. In India, there's a central government ministry that coordinates with all the states and union territories to estimate the volume of goods and services and their prices. It's a huge undertaking.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of measuring GDP, this brings us to a very technical PYQ.
Oh, which one?
This was in 2021, General Studies, Paper 3, Question 1. Explain the difference between computing methodology of India's gross domestic product, GDP, before the year 2015 and after the year 2015.
Wow. That went from biscuit factory to econometrics real quick.
It did. And you can see the jump, right? The NCERT gives you the concept final goods, but the exam asks about the methodology. Post-2015, India shifted its base year and moved from factor cost to market prices to align with global standards, specifically using something called gross value added, or GVA.
So the NCERT is the starting block.
It's a starting block. While the NCERT doesn't cover the 2015 shift in detail, understand the basic composition of GDP, what makes up that value, is the prerequisite to even attempting that question. Can't explain the change if you don't know what's being measured in the first place.
Right. So we have these 3 sectors, primary, secondary, tertiary. How do countries usually develop? Is there like a standard roadmap?
Historically, yes. If you look at the developed nations, the UK, USA, France, they followed a very specific path. That's like a 3-stage rocket. Stage 1, primary dominates. Almost everyone is farming. If you look at England in the 1600s, it was all fields and farms.
Then what happens?
Farming methods improved. You get a surplus of food. You don't need everyone in the fields anymore. So people move to workshops and factories.
Stage 2.
The secondary sector becomes the engine of growth and employment. This is the Industrial Revolution. Smokestacks, assembly lines, urbanization. The works.
And then, stage 3.
As incomes rise and technology advances, the economy shifts again. The tertiary sector, services, becomes the most important for both production and employment. Most people in New York or London today work in offices, shops, or hospitals, not factories or farms.
Primary to secondary to tertiary. A nice, clean, logical line.
Exactly. A predictable progression.
But let me guess, India didn't follow the line.
India looked at the line and said, hold my chai. We did something very unique and, to be honest, somewhat problematic.
Let's look at the data. The text compares 1973 to 2014. What happened in those 40 years?
Well, production increased in all sectors. That's the good news. But the tertiary sector just exploded. It grew the most, by far. By 2014, the tertiary sector had replaced the primary sector as the largest producing sector in India.
So in terms of money, in terms of GDP, we look like a developed country. Services are king.
Yes. But the real question is why? Why did services explode in India? The text outlines 4 key reasons, and these are absolutely crucial for your mains answers. You need to be able to rattle these off.
Let's list them. Reason number 1.
The role of government. In any developing country, the government has to take responsibility for basic services. Hospitals, schools, police, courts, banks, transport. As the Indian state expanded after independence, so do these services. The bureaucracy itself is a huge service employer.
Okay, that makes sense. Reason number 2.
Support services. We mentioned this earlier. Even though agriculture and industry didn't grow as fast as services, they did grow. And every single ton of extra wheat or steel needs more transport, more trade, and more storage. The growth of primary and secondary basically creates a guaranteed demand for tertiary.
They pull it up with them.
Exactly. Reason number 3.
This one must be about people's incomes.
Rising income levels. This is the lifestyle factor. As a section of Indians got richer, they didn't just buy more wheat, they started demanding services. They wanted to eat out at restaurants, go on tourism trips, shop in malls, send their kids to private schools, get treated in private hospitals.
That makes sense. When you have extra cash, you pay for experiences and convenience, which are services.
Exactly. The elasticity of demand for services is very high. As income goes up, demand for services shoots up even faster.
And the 4th reason, the big one.
Technology. This is the game changer. Over the past few decades, the rise of information and communication technology, ICT, created services that didn't even exist before.
Right.
Internet cafes, call centers, software parks, app development. India positioned itself as the back office of the world. This created a massive, massive boom in value.
So we have this booming service sector. India is shining, GDP is up, but you called it a paradox earlier. This all sounds pretty good.
It sounds good because we've only looked at one graph, the GDP graph. If you flip the page in the NCERT and look at the employment graph, the story changes completely. It's like looking at a different country.
Lay it out for us. What's the difference?
In terms of GDP, the tertiary sector is huge. But in terms of employment, the primary sector is still the boss. It's still the largest employer.
Wait. So you're saying the sector that produces the least value employs the most people?
Precisely. The primary sector employs more than half the population, yet it produces only about 1/6 of the GDP.
That sounds incredibly inefficient.
It is. It's the core of the problem. Ideally, as the tertiary sector grew in value, it should have absorbed the workers leaving agriculture. That's what happened in the West. But in India, it didn't happen.
Why not?
We had jobless growth in the high-value sectors. The secondary and tertiary sectors, for all their GDP contribution, failed to create enough jobs to pull people off the farms.
So the people stayed in the fields, but are they actually working? I mean, if you have 5 people doing the work of 3, what's going on there?
This brings us to a really important concept. Disguised unemployment or underemployment?
The NCERT uses the story of Laxmi. I love these little case studies. They make it so real.
They do. So Laxmi is a small farmer with a 2-hectare plot of unirrigated land. She relies only on rain and grows crops like jowar and arasar. All 5 members of her family work on that plot throughout the year.
5 people on 2 hectares, that seems really crowded.
It is. And they are all working. None of them are sitting idle. But, and this is the key, their labor effort gets divided. Each one is doing some work, but no one is fully employed.
So if you remove 2 of them, would the production on the farm drop?
No, that's the entire point. The farm only needs 3 people to produce that amount of crop. The other 2 are surplus. They look employed, but they are technically disguised unemployed. Their marginal productivity is 0. They're adding nothing to the total output.
So if those 2 people left and got a job in a factory?
The family income would shoot up because of the factory wages, and the farm production would stay exactly the same. That is the tragedy of Indian agriculture. Too many people, too little land, and not enough alternative jobs.
And it's not just a rural thing, is it? We see this in cities, too.
Absolutely. In urban areas, you see thousands of casual laborers, painters, plumbers, people pushing carts. They spend the whole day working, but they earn very little.
They're working hard.
They're working incredibly hard, but not because it's highly productive. They're doing it because there are no better opportunities. They're also underemployed.
This connects directly to the idea of the demographic dividend. We hear that phrase all the time. India is young, India is ready.
It does, and it's a critical link for the exam. Let's look at 2016 General Studies Paper 2, question 16. Demographic dividend in India will remain only theoretical unless our manpower becomes more educated, aware, skilled, and creative.
That's a warning shot from the UPSC.
It is, because if you have a huge young population, that's the dividend, but they're all stuck in disguised unemployment on farms or doing low-value casual labor in cities.
Then it's not a dividend, it's a demographic liability.
It's a disaster waiting to happen. The NCERT text explicitly states that the shift in employment didn't happen because not enough jobs were created in the secondary and tertiary sectors. If we don't fix this mismatch, the demographic dividend will be wasted. We will have a lot of young, frustrated, underemployed people.
So how do we fix it? It's easy to point out the problem, but the text proposes some solutions. How do we create employment?
The experts categorize them into short-term and long-term measures. We need a multi-pronged attack. It's not a single bullet solution.
Let's start with Laxmi. How do we help her and her family right now?
Irrigation and infrastructure. If the government spends money to build a dam or dig canals, Laxmi can irrigate her land. She isn't dependent on the monsoon anymore.
So she could grow a second crop.
She might be able to grow a second wheat crop during the rabi season.
Yeah.
And a second crop means she needs more hands, right?
Right.
Suddenly, those two extra family members have real work to do. Employment increases on the farm itself because productivity is increased.
But we also want to get them off the farm eventually into better jobs.
Right. So the next step is to invest in transportation. Build rural roads. If Laxmi can get her crop to a nearby town easily, she creates business for transport and trade. Now, her neighbor creates a job as a truck driver or a trader. It has a multiplier effect.
What about money? Farming is expensive. Seeds, fertilizers.
Credit. This is huge.
Yeah.
Banks need to provide cheap agricultural credit. Right now, so many farmers depend on moneylenders who charge exorbitant, crippling rates of interest. If they have cheap credit, they can buy better seeds and fertilizers, improving productivity and income. They don't get trapped in debt.
And we need industries, right? But maybe not just in the big cities.
Exactly. The text suggests semi-rural industries. Identify and promote industries in local areas. If you grow Dale or pulses, set up a Dale mill nearby to process it. If you grow potatoes, set up a cold storage facility. If there are tribal areas, set up honey collection centers.
So you create jobs locally.
You create non-farm jobs locally so people don't have to migrate to the slums of Mumbai or Delhi to find work.
The text also threw out some massive numbers regarding education and health.
Yes, these are eye-opening. The Niti Aayog, which was the planning commission back then, estimated that nearly 20 lakh jobs can be created in the education sector alone.
20 lakhs.
We need more schools, more buildings, and most importantly, more teachers and staff.
That's a huge number. That's like employing the entire population of a small country.
And in health. If we want to improve our health situation, we need lakhs of doctors, nurses, and health workers in rural areas. These are high-quality, respectable jobs that also improve human development. It's a win-win.
And finally, tourism was mentioned.
The Planning Commission suggested that tourism can create 35 lakh jobs. Every single region in India has potential for regional craft, IT services, or tourism. If we tap into that, the employment potential is massive.
Those are all long-term structural changes, though. Building schools and dams takes time, but people are hungry now. What about immediate relief?
That's where MGNREGA comes in. The Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act of 2005.
Right.
It's a landmark law. It's not a scheme. It's an act. It enforces the right to work. It's basically a safety net for the rural poor.
How does it work, in simple terms?
It guarantees 100 days of wage employment in a financial year to every rural household whose adult members volunteer to do unskilled manual work.
And if the government fails to provide that work,
then they have to pay an unemployment allowance. It puts the onus on the state to provide work or pay up.
And it's not just about digging holes, is it? I feel like that's the criticism it often gets.
That's a common misconception. The Act actually specifies that preference should be given to work that increases the productivity of land, things like drought-proofing, water harvesting, and soil conservation.
So it's a dual benefit.
Exactly. It gives money to the poor to survive, and it builds rural assets that help farming in the long run. It tries to address the root cause while treating the immediate symptom.
Okay, so that covers the nature of the activity primary, secondary, tertiary, and the massive jobs crisis. But there's another way to classify the economy, right? Based on the way people are treated at work, the quality of the job.
Yes, the distinction between the organized and unorganized sectors, this is probably the most painful and stark divide in India.
The text tells the tale of two workers, Kanta and Kamal. It sounds like a Dickens novel.
And the reality is just as stark. Kanta works in the organized sector. She has an office job. She works regular hours, 9:30 to 5:30. She gets a regular salary at the end of every month. She gets Provident Fund, or PF. She gets medical benefits, paid holidays, and, crucially, she has an appointment letter stating the terms of her work.
She has security, she has predictability, she can plan her life.
Yes, the organized sector is defined by enterprises that are registered by the government and follow the rules. The Factories Act, Minimum Wages Act, Gratuity Act. It's not perfect, but there is a legal framework there to protect the worker.
Now tell us about Kamal.
Kamal works in the unorganized sector. He's a daily wage laborer in a grocery shop. He goes to work at 7:30 in the morning and works until 8:00 at night.
That's a 12-and-a-half-hour shift.
Every single day. He gets no allowances apart from his daily wage, no paid holidays. If he is sick and can't go to work, he doesn't get paid for that day.
And his job isn't secure.
Not at all. And here is the kicker. He can be asked to leave any time by his employer. No reason needed, no notice, period. Just don't come tomorrow, and that's it. He has no recourse.
He has zero security. He is living day to day, hand to mouth.
Zero. The unorganized sector consists of small, scattered units that are largely outside of government control. Rules exist on paper, but they are rarely followed. It's a world of low pay and irregular work.
And the scary part is, Kamal isn't the exception. Kanta is the exception.
That's the tragic truth. Kamal represents the vast majority of Indian workers. In rural areas, the unorganized sector is huge. Landless agricultural laborers, small and marginal farmers, sharecroppers, artisans like weavers and blacksmiths. In fact, the text states that nearly 80% of rural households in India are in the small and marginal farmer category.
80%. That number is staggering. That explains why rural distress is such a massive political issue.
And in urban areas, it's the workers in small-scale industries, construction workers, people in trades, street vendors, rag pickers. They keep the city running, but the city gives them almost nothing back in terms of security.
There is also a social dimension to this, isn't there? It's not just economic, it's about who gets stuck in these jobs.
Yes, and this is crucial for Society Answers in GS1. The data shows that workers from scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and other backward communities are disproportionately found in the unorganized sector. So they face a double whammy: economic insecurity and social discrimination. They are trapped in a vicious cycle.
This links perfectly to what the UPSC asks.
Multiple times. Look at 2016 General Studies Paper 1, Question 12. Why do some of the most prosperous regions of India have an adverse sex ratio for women?
How does that connect to the unorganized sector?
It's about the vulnerability of specific sections. When women work in the unorganized sector, as many do, they lack maternity benefits, safety, and security. They are often seen as a burden or expendable labor. This economic devaluation feeds into the broader social devaluation of women, even in rich states like Punjab or Haryana.
That's a deep connection. What else?
Then look at 2021 General Studies Paper 3, Question 3. How did land reforms in some parts of the country help to improve the socioeconomic conditions of marginal and small farmers?
That targets that 80% statistic directly.
Exactly. Since 80% of rural households are small and marginal farmers, meaning they are unorganized by default, land reforms were an attempt to give them an asset base, a piece of land, effectively trying to move them toward a more secure economic life. The NCERT states these farmers need support seeds, credit, storage. Land reforms were the structural version of that support. It was an attempt to organize the unorganized, to give them a fighting chance.
So we have nature activity, primary, secondary, tertiary. We have conditions of work, organized and organized. There is one last classification in the chapter.
Yes. Ownership, public sector versus private sector.
This one feels pretty intuitive. Public is government, Private is individuals or companies.
Correct. In the public sector, the government owns most of the assets and provides the services. Think of railways, the post office, BSNL. In the private sector, ownership is in the hands of private individuals or companies. Tata Iron and Steel Company, or Tisco, Reliance Industries, RIL.
But the difference isn't just who signs the checks, it's about the goal, right? The DNA of the organization.
That's the crucial point. The private sector is driven by the profit motive. They do things to earn money. If there's no profit in a venture, they won't do it. And that's fine. That's how capitalism works.
And in the public sector?
The goal is public welfare. The government provides services even if there's no immediate profit. Sometimes it provides them at a loss, deliberately.
But why? Why can't we just privatize everything? I mean, that's the trend you hear about, isn't it? Efficiency, privatization, divestment.
The NCERT gives 4 solid arguments for why the public sector is absolutely necessary. You cannot just hand everything over to the market.
Okay, let's hear them. Argument 1.
Scale and cost. Some things require such massive investment that no single private company can afford it, or the payback period is just too long. Building railways, bridges, harbors, huge dams.
Right.
The return on investment might take 50 years. The private sector works on quarterly reports. The government has to work on generational timelines.
Okay, that makes sense. Argument 2.
Affordability. Even if the private sector could build it, they might charge too much for the service. Take electricity. If a private company charges the real cost of generation and distribution, many scale industries would go bust. They simply couldn't afford the bill.
So the government?
The government produces electricity and often sells it at a loss or a subsidized rate to keep those small industries alive and competitive. It absorbs the cost to support the wider economy. It acts as a shock absorber.
Argument 3.
Support prices. This relates back to our farmers. The government buys wheat and rice from farmers at a fair price, the minimum support price, or MSP, and then sells it to the poor at a much lower price through ration shops, the PDS.
The government is taking a loss on every transaction.
A huge loss. It bears the cost of this difference. A private company would never do that. Buying high and selling low is terrible business, but it's good governance.
And the final argument, the most important one, maybe.
Human development, health, and education. It is the primary duty of the government to provide these. The text notes that India's infant mortality rate in some states, like Odisha or MP at the time of writing, was higher than some of the poorest regions of the world. You cannot rely on private hospitals to fix malnutrition in tribal areas. There's no profit there.
So government intervention is essential.
It's essential for safe drinking water, housing, and nutrition for the poorest. The market will not provide these things on its own.
This public versus private debate is absolutely central to the post-1991 Indian story.
Which brings us to 2016 General Studies Paper 2, Question 13. Has the Indian governmental system responded adequately to the demands of liberalization, privatization, and globalization started in 1991?
That's a direct question. It's asking, did we balance the public and private sectors correctly after the reforms?
Exactly. The NCERT lays out the fundamental need for the public sector welfare. The LPG reforms pushed for the efficiency of the private sector. A good answer weighs these two against each other, using the logic from this chapter. You argue that while privatization increased GDP growth, the state cannot abdicate its core role in welfare, in health and education, or we risk leaving the poor behind.
And there's another one, a society question.
Yes. 2013 General Studies, Paper 1, Question 13. The life cycle of a joint family depends on economic factors rather than social values.
That's a fascinating sociological link. How does that connect here?
Think about it. As the economy shifts from the primary sector, from farming, where joint families are useful labor units because you need many hands on the land, to tertiary or urban jobs, where nuclear families are more mobile and independent.
The social structure changes. The joint family breaks down.
The economic factor driving the family split is literally the sectoral transformation we just spent an hour discussing. It's incredible.
Mind blown. It all connects. Economy, society, geography.
It always does. It's all one big web. You just had to find the threads.
Okay, let's try and wrap this up. Let's unpack everything we've covered. This has been a marathon.
We started with the threefold classification. Primary, which is based on nature. Secondary, which is manufacturing. Tertiary, which is services. And we saw how they are all interdependent. The truck needs the wheat, and the wheat needs the truck.
Then we looked at the yardstick, GDP, and the crucial rule of final goods only to avoid that double-counting biscuit trap.
We analyzed the historical shift. Developed countries went primary to secondary to tertiary. India, in its unique way, jumps straight to a tertiary boom, kind of skipping the manufacturing phase.
Which led directly to the employment paradox. The service sector makes all the money, but the agriculture sector is where all the jobs are. We called out disguised unemployment, people appearing to work but not really contributing.
And we discussed solutions. Long-term ones like infrastructure and credit, and short-term safety nets like MGNREGA.
We looked at the quality of jobs, the stark difference between organized Kanta and unorganized Kamal, and how vulnerable that 80% of rural India is.
And finally, ownership. Why the public sector is essential for welfare, for scale, and for human development, even in a world that's leaning towards privatization.
That is a solid foundation for Indian economy. You have the skeleton now. But before we let you go, here is a final provocative thought to chew on.
We know the service sector is driving India's GDP. We celebrate our IT giants and our unicorns. But if 80% of rural India is still stuck in small, marginal farming, and the unorganized sector is where the vast majority of our most vulnerable people work, is our growth sustainable?
Or are we building a skyscraper on a foundation of loose sand?
If the base, the primary sector, is weak and overcrowded, and the middle, the secondary manufacturing jobs, is missing, can the top, the tertiary service sector, keep floating up there forever? That is the question you need to ponder.
Heavy stuff. But that's why we do this. If this breakdown helped you understand the skeletal structure of the Indian economy, please subscribe and support Simplified UPSC by PPP. We are trying to build something valuable here.
And we really need your support to keep this going. Check the link in the description for the Telegram channel, get those free notes, and practice those PYQs we discussed today.
And for the really serious aspirants, join the private library for the premium notes and the model answers. Just DM us on Telegram.
Like, comment, share. It really does help the algorithm find other serious learners.
We'll see you in the next deep dive.
Keep learning.